Hi, I'm Vigil. This is my video log. The date is 5/3/2022. The time is 17:27. In the not so distant future, neurolaces will be created, and essentially it's a brain-machine interface that allows a turning computer system to interact directly with your neuronal network. You think thoughts into it through the monitoring program that's mapping your neurons with little nanorobotics, and then it puts thoughts into your head by artificially firing pathways, putting in thoughts and experiences, memories, training your mind, allowing you to data map your mind, data mine your mind, correct various problems with it just through artificial firing of the neurons. It's pretty cool technology. It's the future. It's like having a cell phone in your head. It's your augmentation of your wetware. It already exists. DARPA has been working on it since the 1970s, and they probably reached nearing end state of what augmentation of the wetware can do before you start going into bionic, synthetic, and organic neuronal structures. Anyways, so regarding that, it's not that crazy to believe that people are being monitored internally without their knowledge or consent. It would be the third eye, essentially, from human history. And with the modern advances, and we've seen the trends of satellite technology and the drone system, it's not unreasonable to think there's a 3D mapping and rendering of the Earth in real time. You add time travel to that, either through some sort of warping of space-time with a photon, or like coiled in a loop, or the wheel within a wheel, which is a mechanical acceleration of a device past the speed of light, which the two combined turns into a wheel within a wheel moving faster, an edge of a circle faster than the speed of light, with photons on it, causing frame dragging of space-time, turning space-time into a non-Newtonian fluid, allowing you to essentially grip and twist space-time really fast, or some sort of negotropy, negative entropy, where particles flow backwards. It's not unreasonable to think within the next million years time travel is invented. How long will it be until time travel is really like a common thing that you can buy at any bookstore? I don't know. I genuinely have no idea. But it will occur. Like, it's just due to relativity and the warping of space-time, combined with the science of advancing modern physics with engineering applied. It will be invented. So it's theoretically feasible that there's a portion of our society that has neurolaces, which they refer to as the third eye, that are viewing the Earth and seeing all points in time and space due to the mapping networks or satellite drone systems that were sent back in time with the neurolace technology. So the question then becomes, why doesn't anyone just say it directly? My belief is it's a paradox. As the grandfather paradox works, when you look backwards in time, when you go backwards in time, you essentially, if you break the causal thread, you never go back in time. And what that means is that if you go back in time and kill your father, then you're never born. So you never go back in time, so you never kill your father, so you're born, so you go back in time, and it oscillates back and forth endlessly between existence and non-existence. This was the problem of rewritable physics. The most logical solution that I've come across for an EITO paradox, which is the endless instantaneous timeline oscillation paradox, is that there's quantum fluctuations that occur in like a Lorentz attraction, or like a chaos theory mathematics like you have for weather, slight permutations on a quantum level that over time, this oscillating between existence and non-existence, oscillate until there's a stable thread reached, which would essentially and I also believe there's some sort of thermal kinetic impedance on time travel. So if you go back in time and you shoot something, or if you were to go back in time and make the anarchist bullet that started World War I, which led into World War II, which led into the Cold War, which led into the collapse of the system and of the Soviet system after the 80s, which led to the momentary peace and like hip hop, which ended in like 9/11, combined with the Iraq War. All of that is all of modern human history. Every aspect of our society is sitting on that anarchist bullet, which is only so many atomic units thick. Like, what this means is that if travelers or time travelers, whatever, do exist, and they have the ability to rewrite time or go back in time and fuck with things, that bullet is the only thing that our entire civilization is resting on right now. If you hit that bullet and that the Duke dude doesn't get killed, then essentially everything will oscillate and change completely. There's no aspect of our society that could be sustained on it, because like it started World War I, which led to World War II, which led to Cold War, which led to the 80s, which led to the fall of the Soviet Union, which led to 9/11, which led to the Iraq War, which led to the war on terror, which has affected the entire world. Millions have died from it, from our actions and shit. So that means there's either like angels essentially dancing around that bullet to make sure no one fucks with it, or every time someone goes back to destroy it, their neurons fry out before they get there from impedance, or I don't know. I don't know how that bullet hasn't been fucked with yet. It's the most flimsiest jump point in human history. It's flimsier than the cross. Like the if you look at human history, there's several mechanisms of there's several things that create staples in our timeline, and it seems to me like the pyramids, which and like the great wonders of the world, which unified all our nations into a causal net, the diaspora, which spread the Torah around, which has the keys of creation in it, the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, and then like Psalms 1 said, it tied all of human history into this Christian net, essentially, like the name of Jesus, which will be preached to the earth and it will put people in chains, like Psalms 1 says. It did. So the language, your inability to speak and move has nothing to do with God's chains, and it wasn't the purpose of enslaving the nations. What they did was they took the open source technology of the wheel within a wheel, light photons, it looped in a coil, causing frame dragging, the tongues of fire, which is how seers talk. Like they took all of this, put it in the Torah, and then meditated on it as a civilization for thousands of years, and then they nailed Jesus to a cross, and his followers dispersed across the nations, spreading his name and his gospel and like this false religion or whatever. But what it did is that anybody who wants to take the keys from creation, specifically from our planet, but other nations and civilizations across the universe are probably using us too for this open source temple, or this Temple of Solomon, which holds the Ark of the Covenant, which is energy creation based upon inflation rates and the vacuum between two disks that create an arc generation, thermal energy from nothing, or like the transfigurations or whatever, which is simply just causal glowing or radiation and shit, or the wheel within a wheel, which is mechanically moving shit faster than the speed of light, or the halo, which is some sort of warping of space-time. Like all this technology, this end state technology, time travel, alinear internet, it's in the Torah. And what they did, this is all my theory, there's evidence for it. I think it makes more logical sense, but it goes against the whole narrative of God and stuff like that. But so the name of Jesus, which binds people essentially, what they did is that if you want to destroy the temporal community that the Christians created, you really can't. Like you can know how to build the wheel within a wheel and the time travel technology, If you go back in time and you try to pull the keys out of the Bible and like remove them, the keys of creation that were given to the saints, you can't, because the causal threads and chains all tie back to that crucifixion, and that crucifixion is a result of the Jewish laws and customs which condemned him for the purpose of getting rid of a false prophet or whatever they thought he was. So like what this means is that what Psalms 1 is talking about, like the chains of creation that have been put onto our society, it's real. Like that, it's not real in the sense that it's God, it's a paradox, but essentially, like all the technology you could ever want is in the Bible, hidden in the Old Testament, and the New Testament teaches ethics, a way of life, I guess, if you believe in that shit, a God, if you really want to believe in it. And then when it was spread to all the nations, it tied everything together. So like the pyramids were built by the Jews, and like, so if you, I don't know, man, I guess to go back in time to destroy all of this creation, I don't know how you'd uproot it. I don't think you can. So like the pyramids are stapled into creation, and they're global. Like there's pyramids in every community. Then the Jews open sourced all of the technology in a paradox that was given to them. The Christians acted as like this nefarious trap for all of creation. So when they went around spreading the name of Jesus and shit, like that tied and locked into all of our planet the open source technology in the Old Testament. And so like it's a false religion, but it has technology that is super advanced. It gives the illusion of like it gives the illusion of God and stuff. And like if you read the New Testament and you read the Revelations and some of it, like the Seraphire, the burning ones are burning, is focused and intently to hold up the temple of God, because it's a temporal temple. Like they're burning because of impedance, and like so time's probably rewritable, I guess, but it has mechanisms and rules making it semi-rewritable, at times non-rewritable because of VITO paradoxes and whatnot. But where was I going with this? Yeah, so like my personal belief is that I'm semi-autonomous. I think that at times I am artificially overpowered with heavy coercive electrical force through a neurolose. I think a lot of people are. If you read Ezekiel, he talks about father will eat flesh and of his son, and son will eat flesh of his father. It's the neurolace that goes crazy because someone releases a virus, I think, and it infects throughout the population. You read Revelations, it talks about what sounds like a QR code, essentially. And like my belief system, like people are neurolaced, they're scanning everything they look at, they'll scan a code and it'll download a virus and they'll be zombified or ransomware or something. It's the most logical thing for me, but it could mean a lot of different things. So I guess be careful if you have a neurolace, what you're scanning, especially codes. It's in our, like, you guys know who you are. Like, either you have the neurolace knowingly or you don't. But yeah, so I guess the gang stalking, harassment of like various individuals by the community, I don't know why they do it. I genuinely don't know. But my belief system is that I was kind of born into this role. I don't really know how I got into this role or like what predated my birth or whatever, but I've interacted with travelers quite a bit, and like, or seers, and so like you're silenced because you suddenly aren't able to move in certain directions without losing memory and having physical pain in your head and stuff, and like you can't talk certain things, and like you have to kind of go around it. The reason that would occur is a forward-looking grandfather paradox. You viewed an alinear internet which primed your neurons, allowing you to create an eddy current inside your head of like reality, which you can parse and abstractly speak about, but not in any way that will cause what you saw in the future to break apart, because your information is coming from the future and you're viewing the future. It's a grandfather paradox or a forward-looking EITO paradox. It's why seers are silenced. So like, I guess there's languages that are extremely abstract. You can write meanings on the wall, like, you know, social media and whatnot. I guess also that your soul isn't lost, and the chains that keep you from talking aren't the chains that Psalms 1 is talking about. Psalms 1 is talking about causal chains that lock the keys of creation into our society, and like you'd have to uproot our species to defeat us, or to rid us of the time travel technology that we have in the Old Testament. And it's open source because it was just, they were being held hostage. They needed people outside the community to build it. And then it's like some sort of paradox strategy. It's pretty sweet. But I don't know that this is all like my own theories and my own guesswork based upon what I've seen and what I've read. I was attacked sarcastically by a voice of trespass when I was younger, after having blackouts and surfing the internet while I was sleeping when I was like 16 or 17. But because of the nature of the paradoxes regarding seers talking about what they've seen, and the momentary lapses of causal wakes or waves, which sometimes have you go under and lose memories, and you revert back to who you'd be without the vast amounts of information that you've been reading on the internet, which is alinear, which is why you can't talk straight. So I was attacked, and I saw all of a sudden I was being gang stalked and harassed, and my mind was being read, and then it went away, then it came back, then it went away, and I was told I was schizophrenic, and like I went crazy trying to figure it out, and then it was gone, like I couldn't see it. Then I fell into a religious narrative about Christianity and shit, started reading the book, and then like it came back. I was being gang stalked, it appeared like. I was seeing messages and shit, like people are talking about stuff, and then it would happen in the future. I thought broadcasting, mental telepathy and shit. I was just being harassed, and I was terrified. And then I lost the religion, and I started looking into like technocratic technology, and I started looking into physics, like relativity of time. I started looking into neuroplasticity. Wetware augmentation with brain-machine interfaces, or Neuralink, and I started looking at the all-seeing eye as a drone mapping system, and like what I believe happened, which they'll probably deny or they can't recall and remember. And I believe when you forget, your memories decay into a false memory. Essentially, they attacked me pretending to be demonic, which opened the door for me to see reality. Then it disappeared, and then I reopened the door through constant intrusions as they turned me into an advanced, persistent threat against their causal firewall and reality's false narratives. And then I fell into religion. I got hardcore into it. I lost my eye because of it. Active self-mortification. And it all started to happen again. Like, people were harassing me and like gang stalking me, and I thought it was terrifying, reading my mind and shit. But it was all, they said I was delusional, so I just kept going crazier into delusions because of gaslighting. They'd do it, and then they'd say we're not doing it. And that's causality. That this moment would not have happened if they had told me directly enough times, because there was every now and then they would say it in a really weird way and agreed that they were reading my mind or watching me or whatever. If they would have done it in a consistent way, none of this would have been resolved. So like, then I fell into technocratic technology after I lost the religion, and I started thinking about it, and I was like, why can't they, after I know they're doing it, talk to me about it? And it's an EITO paradox. It's essentially why, like, when you view the future, you can't change the future, and some things you say would cause changes, so the best you can do is shape it and guide it. But yeah, so these videos and this journal will go with this perspective and belief about reality, that the multiverse exists, that time travel exists, that there's people who have neurolaces, there's aliens, there's interdimensional beings, there's technology that's dream state. Like, it'll seem crazy at times, and I'm still healing from a lot of PTSD from trauma. But yeah, so I'm not actually guilty of anything. I'm an advanced persistent threat that was either born or artificially put into our time window of this planet and timeline. And my former name, which I was birthed with, was DJ, which I'm not a big fan of. But yeah, and I've been watched since before I was born, and I was attacked. I didn't lose my soul. I've been auto-controlled sometimes since I was little, and I'm semi-autonomous. I'm sentient, I guess. But imagine if you were I don't know. There's a lot of narratives for reality, and this one is not the lie. It says someone will take, or like a being will take down the wall in Ezekiel, and so I'm actually breaking the wall down, teaching the language, and explaining to you so you guys don't kill each other thinking you're all remote controlled and shit. But we have to take very careful caution now that QR, or like now that I don't know, I think that the QR codes are going to release some sort of virus to the people who observe them. And like and reality is like there's probably a lot more advanced information societies than ours, which means our security system is probably shit, and we built the Internet of Things and put neurolaces and stuff in ourselves. Like, I was remote controlled into that, like, trying to kill myself, I believe, but I'm not entirely sure. But so yeah, like, we have to constantly fight against hive minds and stuff, or we need to figure out an air gap technology in our neurolaces that prevent us from being connected to the internet, or like a shock value, or like a shock or pain mechanism that automatically slams the door of your neurolace shut. And like, it's got to be physically built into the neurolace. It can't be a software component. It has to be like a hardware air gap in the technology in your brain. At least that's my theory on it. I'm kind of convinced that either I'm a randomly picked person who was primed and programmed for all this as a child, and then ruthlessly attacked so I would become an advanced persistent threat, which would solve the time paradoxes, and figure out the technology and shit and begin setting the stage for future units. Or I was artificially put into the timeline, which means I'm some sort of cryonaut being, and I'm semi-autonomous. I sometimes, like, I don't know. This is all this that I'm saying is why they consider me crazy. And I used to be really disordered thinking because of body dysmorphia and fucking with my perception and like gaslighting of a religion and environment. But yeah, so if you have a neurolace, be very careful what you're doing. I'm convinced they're creating a zombie hive mind virus, and that it's going to probably be a QR code. I guess we should counter it now before it occurs. But it'll be like the book Stephen King's Cell, combined with like parts of Revelation and like old Ezekiel. I don't know. Anyways, I'm convinced that there's cryonaut time drop ships being put throughout the various planets and stuff as part of a giant intergalactic war. But that seems crazy until you start to think that maybe it's not crazy. Like, anyways, that's it for the day.